Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss the 7% withholding VAT. We are going to talk about everything about it, and our reference point will be from section 55 to section 58 of the VAT Act 2025, Act 1151. We'll also be looking at the administrative guideline issued by the GRA. Before I continue, let me say this. This is not a tax advice. This is for educational purposes only. Please, whatever decision you make out of this, the consequence of it, we are not associated with. Okay, so that being said, the session will be in two folds. We'll talk about the withholding agents, the scope of it, the duties, and then you, the withholdee, your entitlements. Then we also have an Excel illustration of the deduction, how the calculation is being done. I'll share the Excel with you in my link in this video, the video description, a link where you can access the Excel so that it can help you to calculate in case you are invoicing someone and the person is a VAT withholding agent. What will happen? I mean, the amount that you should expect to receive in your account. So first, let's look at the appointment of the VAT withholding agent. So unlike the income tax withholding, I'm going to use the service as an example because that is quite closer. That's 7.5. That's what usually causes the confusion. So the income tax withholding for service, that's a 7.5. Unlike that one, or any other income tax withholding, for VAT withholding agent, the Commissioner General needs to appoint you, like you need to be appointed as a withholding agent before you can withhold. You understand? Unlike the income tax withholding, where it is not exhaustive. I mean, the withholding agent are not exhaustive. Once you are dealing with business, you are doing business with anyone apart from an individual, any person, I mean, apart from an individual, the person can withhold you tax. But for the VAT withholding, you need to be appointed. You cannot withhold VAT unless you are appointed by the Commissioner General to withhold VAT. So that is the difference between the VAT withholding and then that of the income tax withholding. That's the 3% for goods, 5% for works, and then 7.5 for service. And any other income tax withholding, that one, once you are doing business with the person, in making payments, the person will withhold you. You get it? But for the VAT withholding, the person has to be appointed by the Commissioner General as a withholding agent. So, to the best of my knowledge, currently, those who are appointed are the financial institutions, that's the banks. So, if you are working with Car Bank, you are working with UMB, you are working with SG Ghana, that's Societe Generale, those guys will withhold you once you invoice them. They'll withhold you VAT withholding once it's a taxable supply. Let me just clarify that. Once it's a taxable supply, and then you've charged VAT, they will withhold you the VAT. That's a 7%. You invoice in it or SIC or maybe anyone in the mining sector or manufacturing sector, Nestle Ghana, Coca-Cola, and then the petroleum subcontractors too. So you know them, Baker Hughes and all those guys. Telecom, communication industry, MTN, Telecel, and then AT, they all withhold you VAT. They're all appointed withholding agent, VAT withholding agents. And then the government institutions, the schools, KNUST, ATU, all those guys, they withhold you. So let us look at the duties of the VAT withholding agent. So the withholding agent is to withhold tax at the rate of what? 7% of the taxable value of the taxable supply. So during the calculation, you see how this is applied on the taxable value, the base which the 7% is applied on from any person when making payment to the person. So that is it. As I already mentioned, they will withhold 7% of the what? The VAT base. The 7% of the VAT base. You know the VAT now is 2.5, that's the levy, NHIL levy, then 2.5 get fund levy. Then you come to the 15% VAT. There's no flat rate now, so everything is what, standard or zero rated. So they come to the 15%. So out of the 15%, instead of paying you 15%, they'll pay you 8%. You understand? You have withheld, you have invoiced 15% VAT, but they will withhold 7% and pay you what? 8%. You get it? Now, after they've done that, as an agent, just like any other withholding, that is income tax withholding, whatever withholding, it is PAYE, whatever, you have to file and pay on or before 15th of the ensuing month. So assuming we are in January 2026, I withhold you. By 15th of February, I have to pay and file to GRA of all payments that I've made to the supplier, taxable persons, sorry. So in doing that, the withholding agent is also to issue what we call a withholding VAT credit certificate. The agent is also to issue what? A withholding VAT credit certificate. Unlike the income tax withholding, where when the withholding is done and then it's filed and paid to GRA, the GRA itself will issue the certificate to you. So once you are registered on the tax portal, you have a tax portal. Registered on the tax portal, you go to your pay tax and then you go to your credit. You see all those credit certificates there. Those are the ones that you've withheld from people and then the ones that you've been withheld. So you see the credit certificate from suppliers. But the VAT withholding does not operate like that. Currently, it doesn't operate like that. It is the client, the one you've supplied to, the one that has withheld you, the withholder, the one that has withheld you the tax. That's the person who will issue the certificate to you. So there's a prescribed form by the Commissioner General that they use. So usually you have the 10, you have your 10, their 10 and then your 10. You have the amount supplied, the amount, the invoice amount, the invoice number. The certificate itself has it's serialized, so it has a serial number. You get it there, the date of supply, the period of payment, and then the period of supply, and then the date of payment, and then you have the withholder's name information there. Maybe if it is Consolidated Bank of Ghana or maybe Stanbic Bank, you see there, you see Coca-Cola Ghana, you see the name there. Some of them maybe add their logos and stuff, and then you have all this information there. So it's a form that the withholding agent will issue to you. Yeah, so it's a credit certificate. You get it? It's a credit certificate, sorry, that the withholding agent will issue to you once they've withheld you and paid to GRA. So when you supply to people, withholding agents, VAT withholding agents, and then they deduct the 7% withholding, VAT withholding, they are supposed to give you a certificate. Later, I'll show you what you use the certificate for. I'll tell you. So for the VAT withholding agent, when you fail to withhold the tax, you are to pay 30%, including the tax that you failed to pay. So what happens is, when the VAT withholding agent fails to withhold the tax, and then or he fails to pay the tax to GRA, you pay 30% of the tax you fail to withhold, and then you also pay the tax itself to GRA. So you are paying the tax itself plus 30%. The 30% is penalty to GRA. What happens is, you can claim the tax that you failed to pay. So assuming you have supplied to Coca-Cola, or maybe someone has supplied, you are Coca-Cola accountant. Someone has supplied a taxable supply to you. You failed to withhold. When GRA comes, or GRA notice that you failed to withhold, you pay a penalty of 30% of that, and then you also pay the tax itself that you failed to withhold. But in the next supply, or maybe whatever the case may be, you can recover the amount you failed to withhold from the supplier, and then you issue the certificate to the supplier. But for the penalty, you cannot do that. That's on you. You would have to pay that yourself. And also, I mean, when you withhold, the law covers you. It is considered as the amount that you've withheld has been paid to the supplier for the purpose of claim by the withholdee. So someone supplies you something, you withhold 7%. The person cannot say that you've not paid the person cannot come and claim that 7% from you again. The law protects you. So you are safe when you withhold someone. It's actually an obligation on you by the tax law to withhold once you are appointed a VAT withholding agent. So the law protects you when you withhold. The accountants here, when you invoice someone and the person withholds you, you are to pass a credit to the client. You invoice the person becomes receivable. So 100 cedis, the person pays 70 cedis. Assume the person has withheld you 30 cedis. You do your calculation. The withholding is right. It is the right amount. You have to pass the 30 cedis as what? Credit to the client to net it off as if the person has fully paid once you've received your certificate and or you've gone to the portal and noticed that the withholding has been paid. So now let's look at the user as a withholdee. What are your entitlements? Once they issue the supplier issues the credit certificate to you, or the withholding agent issues the credit certificate to you, you are entitled to a credit, an amount equal to the amount the tax that has been withheld to reduce your tax liability. What this means is it acts as an input tax for you. So for those of you who know how to file on the portal, you know your output VAT or your output tax less your input tax. So the credit certificate acts as an input tax once you have it. In the old law, that's Act 870. It was under Section 48, under the old law, which is the deductible input tax. So which had a limit, a 6-month limit. But in the new law, Act 1151, there is no such limit. It's not subject to Section 49, which is deductible input tax. So there's no what? Tax limit. There's no 6-month period expiration. That does not apply here. So the credit certificate does not fall under the Section 49. It does not expire. So you can take it, assuming you supply someone goods or maybe a service, a taxable service, and the person withholds you and then gives you the certificate in maybe February. In the old law, by August, you should claim or by July, you should claim the certificate or it's void. You cannot claim it. You understand? By the new law, in the current law that we are using, the Act 1151, you can claim it anytime because it's a credit. That 6-month expiration does not count here. So that is one of the changes in the withholding VAT in the new law. Also, another change is exemption. Just like the way you can apply for exemption for the income tax withholding, you can also apply for exemption for the VAT withholding. This was not in the old law. The old law you couldn't apply for. That was the difference between the income tax and then the VAT withholding. That was one of the difference. So, but the new law you can apply for exemption. So, if you are a withholdee, you can apply to the Commissioner General that I want you to exempt me from VAT withholding. You get, and the Commissioner General, based on the good cause you've shown, may accept or reject your application. You understand? When the Commissioner General accepts your application, they'll issue a certificate to you, exemption certificate to you, which you attach your invoices when you are supplying to these VAT withholding agents. Someone may ask, what does it mean to show a good cause? So one of the things you need to do, some of the things you need to do is you make sure that you've submitted all your tax returns and made payment of all taxes on time. You also kept proper books. Before even they register you for VAT, that's one of the requirements. And then there are some compliance requirements the Commissioner General may determine later. But in the current income tax withholding, some of the requirements are that you need to be audited for at least 3 years before the current year of assessment you are applying for the withholding. And then your checks hadn't bounced. That's definitely a requirement. So these are some of the things I think maybe the commissioner may come up with when it's enrolled properly. So now let's look at the Excel illustration. So this is the Excel I built for this. Now over here, it's asking you, are you exempt from withholding? That's the income tax withholding. So Y is yes, and N is what? No. So here too, are you exempt from the VAT withholding? Currently, to the best of my knowledge, as of this day, 9th January 2026, it has not been enrolled yet. I mean, the application, they've not granted any exemption to anyone for VAT withholding. So you just type yes if you are exempt or no if you are not. Then here to goods, this is for goods. This Excel is for goods, service, and works. I can't do for the whole withholding tax types or rates. So I did for the most popular goods, service, and works. So if it's goods, you just write G, just like here, just like it's here, service S, and then works W. So let's look for service. Okay, so it's a supply. What is the amount? So assuming you are supplying laptops to Stanbic Bank, you get this laptop to Stanbic Bank, and then the amount say 1,000 cedis. The laptop is 1,000 cedis, just one laptop. Your sales price is 1,000 cedis before you're charging VAT. So you enter the amount before VAT here. So you write 1,000 cedis. You get it? So I'm not exempt from income tax. I'm not exempt from VAT withholding. It is a laptop, so that would be goods. So I'll just type G here. You get it? So when I come here, you see this is my NHI tax calculator for me. Get fun. My VAT is what? 150. The total amount Stanbic is supposed to pay is what? I mean, without the withholding is 1,200. This is what you invoice. This will be the total invoice amount. Now, when you go to Stanbic, Stanbic will withhold you what? VAT withholding of this. You understand? VAT withholding of this. And then they will also withhold the income tax of this and pay you this amount. So the income tax is what? 3%. And then the VAT 7%. So this is what the 7% is on. The 7% is on this. It's on this. The 1,000 cedis here. You get it? So 7% of this, the 1,000 cedis, and then they'll pay you back what? This. After that, you told him. When you're also filing your VAT, you file this, all this will be your output tax. You understand? You take this as an input plus any other input you have. But assuming there's no other inputs, you are filing for this amount alone. You file this, will be 200 cedis, less this 70 cedis. If Stanbic has issued the withholding certificate to you, the VAT withholding certificate to you, hope you understand, the VAT credit certificate to you, you can use this. You can use it to reduce the 200 cedis. Instead of paying 200 cedis, you pay what? 130 cedis. So I also did another illustration where, assuming the invoice came, or maybe you just wrote 1,200 tax inclusive. You didn't break it down, or maybe the supplier did not break it down. You can just type 1,200 here, and then it will do the calculation for you. You see the tax exclusive will be here. Everything will calculate for you, and then how much should be withheld, how much you'll be paid. You understand? So that is it. So assuming this is a service. So let's say I went to fix some AC for Stanbic Bank, or I went to maybe do some cleaning for them or something. If that was a service, just type S here. So that will change it will not change the VAT withholding. It will only change the income tax withholding. You understand? So the VAT withholding is 7%, whether it's service, goods, or whatever. Once it's a taxable supply, you get it. So we only change this. Just as it is here. So you paid what? 1,055 each for service. Now, assuming I'm exempt from VAT withholding, I'll just type here, yes. So meaning they will not even withhold you. They'll give you the only income. I'm exempt from withholding tax itself, yes. Or why? Yeah. Then you get 1,200 per. So when you're filing, you file this 200 cedis to GRA. Thank you for your audience. That will be all for now. Please subscribe, like, and share this. I'll be expecting your comments. Let me know if there's any other question you want me to address, or there's any other tax issue you want me to address. Thank you.